Welcome to Grew with Portia, the podcast that uncovers the hidden treasures within grief. I'm your host, Portia the producer, and I'm inviting you to join me on a transformative journey where we will exchange laughter, of course the best medicine of them all, reflect on cherished memories. Remember that time that the little boy grabbed my hand instead of his mother's at the amusement park? Yikes. And of course discover gratitude while navigating one of life's hardest challenges, loss. So get ready to grow with me, Portia the producer. Let's dive in. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Groove with Portia. I am your host, Portia Booker, and as always, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to keep up with all things Groove with Portia. One of the things I always say is that our greatest battles tend to be the ones that nobody can see. Let me say that again. Our greatest battles tend to be the ones that nobody can see. Look at grief, for an example. The grief of when you leave a corporate role and become an entrepreneur and you think you're going to have support. The grief of working with a chronic illness that you've been to however many physicians or practitioners to get answers, and you're still left with a mystery that has been unsolved for however many years. Let that sink in. So today I have the honor of being joined by a guest who's no stranger to some of these things that I mentioned just now. So welcome to Groove with Portia, Miss Sondra Bailey. Sondra, it's an honor to meet you. Thank you for coming on the show.
Thank you, Portia, and thank you for having me.
Sondra, one of the things that I read about you is that you were bedbound for a while.
Yes.
And
yes.
as I mentioned in the beginning, there's an identity that gets attached to you when you're going through something chronic, when pain is always constant. And I'm curious, Sondra, for our audience who's tuning in, what was that grief journey like for you emotionally during that time? And when did you kind of find that pivot to say, you know, this can be something bigger than the current seat of occupancy that I have?
Mm-hmm. So I was dating a doctor from Columbia when I worked at the hospital. And when we got together, he decided that he was going to make me sick. So he did black magic on me and continued to do black magic on me. And then I got bedbound. Now, I'm from Alabama, and here I've never heard of black magic. This was back 30 something years. You know, I went to the church, but never heard that. And so it just kept going to where I lost everything. I couldn't work anymore. I lost my career. I actually lost custody of my son. He had to go stay with his father. And everywhere I went, the doctors could not diagnose me. So, me being an RN, when we went to Cleveland Clinic and we went to Emory and UAB and the Houston Clinic, they all came back with the same thing. And they actually were trying to put it on me like that I was making it up, or, you know, that it was psychosomatic. So at the point in time that I'd given up, I was bedbound and the doctors were giving me chemo treatments because they didn't know what else to do because I had swollen up. And my normal nurse wasn't able to make it. And I had been seeing her all the time for a year. And another lady showed up. And when she did, she told me and she looked at me and she said, "You're crossed up." And I was like, "What is that?" She's like, "You've got a hex on you." I was like, "What?" She's like, "Here, honey." And then she pulled, and I was reading it, and it was me, everything that they were saying. So after that, you know, I tried to hire people, you know, to help me. And that ended up being like a joke, to say it mildly. What little money I had was gone, and no one was able to help me. So that nurse came back again, and she's like, "Sondra, I want you to contact a shaman." I was like, "Okay." So as soon as I contacted this lady from Mexico, she told me, she said, "Do you know that you have Native American in your family?" I was like, "Yes." She said, "Did you know your the affiliation, which one?" And I said, "Yes, Porch Creek Indians." And she said, "Sondra," she said, "I can help you break some of the curse, but the really meaty part of it is being guarded by reptilians." So we started on the journey and got as far as we could go. And before she left me, I told her, I said, please, just try to do something else. And she said, I'm gonna do a shamanic journey and see who your guide is. And when she did, it was Archangel Michael. And when she did a shamanic journey and met with him, he gave me my sword. And this sword is what I use till this day to get rid of demonic beings.
Mm. Sondra, first of all, I've got a lot of questions because
Okay.
I've heard of black magic, and I am no person who is I'm a believer in guides. I do believe that,
Hmm.
since both of my parents have made their physical transitions from this earth, that they both guide me all the time. I do believe in that. But I'm curious, can
Definitely.
you share with our audience when you found out about this black magic, what did it look like? What did it feel like that kept you bedbound? What was that like for you?
I would get attacks when I was sleeping. Like I would wake up, with claw marks. They had opened a portal in the house, so there was beings constantly going by, and I could feel pain in my aura. I could actually feel needle pricks, and that's what they were doing. They were using needles on me, and then there's nets of insanity, nets of poverty, and they put those on. So I was chronically sick, and then they used ropes to bind me, and then they used cords to put stuff inside of my body.
Mm. And mind you, you're dating a physician.
Yes.
And I'm curious too, Sondra, because I'm thinking a lot of people who have never heard of black magic energy is everywhere, both good
Yes.
and bad energy. I mean,
Hmm.
because sometimes I know for me, sometimes I've caught a cold, but it's not because my immune system was weak. It was something spiritual, right?
Yes.
And
Yes.
I'm curious for our audience too,
Mhm.
Sondra, for those who aren't familiar, who may not, if you want to call it, buy into the energetic frequencies that are around us and may think, are you sure that you weren't dreaming this, right? You're dating a physician who obviously went to school, who knows the medical system, who may know how to do different intravenous things.
Mhm.
How have you been able to essentially defend your story? Because I know things like this do happen and they
Mhm.
do exist, but I'm curious, how have you been able to defend that and
I've had.
also educate others to be open?
Yes. So I documented it. So I've got photos, I kept up with it because in the beginning I was like, I've got to get all the information I can. I was trying to get evidence. And like you, I'd never heard of black magic. But when I talked to people at the church, because I am a Christian, when I talked to them, they told me if you don't believe in it, it can't happen to you. So I changed my mind. And what that did is that wasted 2 years of my life and where I could have gotten help. And when I'm helping people with black magic, that's one of the first things they tell me is so and so told me if I don't believe in it, it can't happen to me. That's not how energy works. Energy is like if you think of a cell tower, it's continuously going off. Just because you think that you're covered in the blood of Jesus, that will not stop a curse. It won't. It is energy. That person has came into your house, took your energy, put it in the spell, and is working it. And they feed those altars that they use. So that's one of the biggest misconceptions. And that's one of the biggest misconceptions I see. Will people suffer for extra years? If someone had not told them that, they would have gotten help sooner.
Sondra, I'm glad you also brought up the shaman who came into your life. What was that like once they not only enlightened you on the black magic, but what did that look like for you as your body slowly started to get back to a space of I'm able to walk again, I'm able to believe in myself and no longer hold on to the grief of the life that you thought you were going to have?
That was easier for me because once I knew, because I was searching everywhere, I've been in the medical field. Once I knew and it was confirmed, I felt peace because I'm like, okay, we can move forward from this. I can be helped. And that's what kept me grounded. But the biggest thing that helped me was when I moved out of that house.
Mm,
I started getting a lot better.
mm. You literally closed the door, no pun intended, on
Yes.
on an environment that literally was keeping you sick. And I do believe in stuff like that, where
Yes.
you go into certain rooms or
Hmm.
houses and you don't feel right. Like I have a
Right.
quick story. So here
Mhm.
in Ohio where I am, there is the Mansfield prison. Those of you who are familiar, the movie Shawshank Redemption was shot there. One of Lil Wayne's music videos was shot there. I believe another band, Hooked Like Helen, they just did a music video there. Well, inside of this prison, I remember one time I was there with, I think, my sister. And if you guys remember in the movie Shawshank Redemption, the shower room wasn't far from the circulatory, which was the
Mhm.
library. And there's no windows in there or anything, Sondra.
Mhm.
I walked into this room by myself. There was nobody else. And I felt this cold breeze go by me. And I
Mhm.
said, okay. And I turned around and walked right out.
Mhm.
Well, a couple years after that, I was telling one of my friends who's very energetically and spiritually connected. She said to me, there, there was a bunch of probably men's spirits in that room,
Mhm.
wondering why there was a woman in the men's bathroom.
Yes. I didn't think
And
about that.
and I never thought about it in that way,
Mhm.
but I knew energetically, how is it that I'm feeling a cold breeze and there's no window, there's no fan,
Mhm.
nothing, and I'm the only one in there.
Right.
So to the point you're making, that some spaces
Mhm.
even house energy that is repellent, that
Mhm.
your soul and your spirit knows is not in alignment. And I'm
Right.
curious too, Sandra. Please share with us. So your guide is Michelangelo, right?
Yeah, Archangel Michael.
So Archangel Michael, excuse me. So I'm curious, when Archangel Michael came to you, what was the message? What was that hope essentially reignited within you from his visit and the sword that he gave you?
He let me know that I was a warrior and that he would be teaching me different dynamics to be able to fight black magic and also dark beings. And when I heard that, I was like, because like I said, never heard of this kind of stuff. I was, like I told you, in the South, and with the doctor, the most powerful dark practitioners are in Colombia. So that
Mm.
was what I was up against. So, I did classes, I went to school. That did not help me. What helped me was Archangel Michael giving me hands-on experience. And that was basically God just threw me in there and Sondra, you got this. It took time and I made it, but it took a while.
And I'm just thinking too, Sandra, because your background is
Mhm.
in the medical field, there tends to be a separation
Yeah.
between science, spirituality, energy, because it's all considered woo woo.
Exactly.
Medical science is over here,
Mhm.
spirituality, faith, religion over here.
Yes.
And I'm
And
curious too, Sandra, for our audience who's tuning in, those who have had a similar background to you in the healthcare field, as we look at the world today, where there's burnout,
yes.
there's compassion fatigue,
Hmm.
there's obviously AI thrown in the
Hmm.
mix. How
Yes.
can more medical professionals, whether it's nurses, physicians, STNAs, how can they open themselves up when they find themselves in the position like you, where they're not getting the answers from their chronic illness? They believe that there's something bigger that's holding them hostage than what they're being told by the physicians or depending on where you're going to get help.
Mhm.
How can they be open?
One thing that I want everyone to know is that you have an energy body and then you have this physical body and then you have an aura around you. Whatever is around you can affect you physically and mentally. Like I do a lot of repairing and cleansing people's aura and chakras. So around that energy field, if there's any rips or tears, stuff from the astral realm is going to come in it and stick on your body. So for example, I work on people that have had surgery. And so when the doctor, he's cutting through the aura and into the back. And what happens a lot of times there where they had the surgery where they were cut won't heal. And that's because something came in through that rip and then settled on top of that area. So it's important to know first that we are an energetic body and that we are basically we are a soul with a body, not a body with a soul. So this is just like our costume, if you want to call it that.
Our meat suit, essentially.
Yes,
Our
that's
meat
it.
suit. Sondra, I'm curious too. We talk about forgiveness, and I've interviewed different people who have talked about how forgiveness is for you and not for the other person. For you, what role did forgiveness play in you not only forgiving others, but also yourself?
Specifically about the magic.
What you didn't know, right?
Oh, what I didn't know.
Yeah, what you didn't know, and you being in that position
Mm, that
for
was
quite some
hard.
time.
That was hard. That was very hard, and it was hard to grasp. And then it was also very hard to forgive the ones that took part in that. That was like one of the last things to happen because it crippled me. So until I got much better, I couldn't really give forgiveness or think about forgiveness because I was still in it. And if I could go back in time, I would have researched things a lot more and stuck there because I was half in and then half out until I really saw it working. Then I was like, oh, thank God. But I had to see it and I had to see big results, big changes. So that was where I came in from with that.
Mm. And it is hard. It's hard for us to show ourselves that compassion when we
Mhm.
always say, I should have known better. I should have done
Right.
this. All the should statements, right? Well,
Yes.
Sondra, let me say this. This has been a very enlightening conversation. I thank you so much for coming on the show. We're going to be wrapping up soon, but before we conclude for today, Sondra, if our audience wants to connect with you, learn more about you, possibly get a session with you, how can our audience connect with you, Sondra?
You can find me on social media. It's Shaman Sondra on all of them. And the Sondra is spelled Sondra. And then you can find me online on Google at www.shamansondra.com.
Excellent. So you can find Sondra on probably mostly all social media platforms, whether it's Facebook, TikTok, Instagram. You can do a Google search of Sondra's website, Shaman Sondra, and obviously utilize Google. Google is your friend. And of course, we got AI now, right? Whether you
Yeah,
use
that's true.
Claude or Chat GPT, you can just type
Mhm.
in Sondra's name, and I'm sure that they will provide results for you.
Yes.
Well, everybody, that was Sondra Bailey that you heard from today on Grew with Portia. And that concludes our conversation. And until next time, everybody, peace and hair grease, everyone.